Hey guys, Chris with Nichols Retirement Empire. I'm out here. There's a park called Gregory Park. It's in Richmond Hill, and it is part of an old rice plantation, hundreds of acres here that was used for rice growing. And there's all these canals, like down here on the Georgia coast in South Georgia. There are a lot of these canals that would connect all these old plantations and stuff to the rivers because it was a cheap way to ship everything, super cheap compared to railroad or anything else or hauling by overland. So this area has a canal. We're just kind of walking through here. I've never been in here before, and you can see there's a canal here right beside the trail. So I'm just kind of checking it out. And they have a canoe launch that I've already seen here. There's a lot of people. I've already seen 7-8 people because it's right here in town. So I've lived here about a year. I just hadn't bothered to come over here to check this out, but it seems pretty cool. So let's just see what it's got to offer. Maybe I mean, there's like houses that back up, there's neighborhoods and stuff that back up to these canals. I'm wondering if you could fish. I guess you could fish in here. There's nothing that says no fishing, but I'm gonna tell you how you can usually tell if an area is good for fishing. You'll see all kind of little bobbers and line and stuff stuck in the trees for people that can't cast, have messed up. So I'll look for that, and I'll see, is this a place where I can fish? If nothing else, it's a place where I can walk and get exercise. And Lord knows I need some exercise. I'm getting big, a little heavy, if you know what I mean. Need to lose some weight. And you know, if you've watched my channel long enough, you realize my my up and down weight. I'll gain 30 pounds, I'll lose 30 pounds, I'll gain 20 pounds, I'll lose 40 pounds, I'll gain. But it's just up and down. But that, you know, that's the way I am, apparently. And my metabolism as I get older is getting lower and lower, and I'm not as get up and go around parks and stuff like that like I used to be. But I need to start. If I start, I'll do it more, instead of sitting around on my rear end watching YouTube, as my dad calls it. He says YouTube instead of YouTube. So let's see what this looks like. It's really pretty. Now, from my understanding, if this was a rice plantation, rice has to be cultivated, and there's at least a period of time where it has to be in water. So like, you know, you see them over in Asia and all that stuff, how they have these rice paddies, and they have all these little retention ponds and all this kind of stuff, and the rice is actually planted, from what I understand, in standing water. So I mean, obviously this area is going to be, there's going to be water all over the place, and they had to have a way to flood these fields, and I'm sure it has to be fresh water. I wouldn't think for sure you'd be able to use salt water. And this does connect to the Ogeechee River, which is where I crappie fish all the time. These canals connect directly to that river. So it's kind of interesting. I just happened to be driving down the one of the roads here one day, and I kept noticing to the right, so that looks like a walking trail over there. And then when the winter came along, I could see there was kind of a canal that went through there. So I thought, what is this? So I looked it up on the map, and sure enough, here's all these canals and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, there's a trail that goes through there, and this is what it is. And some of these houses over here, even have little docks and canoes. So I'm sure it's really shallow in here, but that's kind of cool. You can get like in a canoe and pedal down this canal. Have a little nice little nature trail right next to your house. And this is the part of the trail that I was seeing from the highway. You can see over there, there's some cars going by. Now I have to say, there's so much area over here that's like a conservation area that there's tons of birds and stuff. You can hear them in here. I don't know that this is a place I would fit. I don't know. You know, it wouldn't be easy. I'm used to comfort. I'm used to fishing out of a boat. Man, when I was in college, we didn't have a boat. The guys I lived with fished, but they didn't fish like I fished, but they fished. And if there was a pond that we could get into, or any kind of place that we could fish, we would go. And if it didn't say no trespassing, we were in it. I'll put it that way. Trying to catch bass and stuff like that. And even if it had a sign that said no trespassing, we might be in that. You never knew. But nobody ever, I never was anywhere where somebody told me to leave, or, you know, but I was careful. I made sure I didn't want to get in trouble any more than I had to, I'll put it that way. And the guy that actually, when I was doing my student teaching, the guy's name was Gary Matthews. It was at Oglethorpe County High School, which is right, that county is right next to the county where the University of Georgia is. And he had a big pond, and he would let me come fish in his pond when I was doing my student teaching. I learned so much from that. I'll tell you what I learned from that guy. The number one thing I learned was be nice to the custodians, the lunchroom ladies, those two groups. He said, if you'll do that, they will help you do stuff. You'll get more food when you go to the cafeteria. Back then you would. Now they just give you whatever. But back then you had real cafeteria workers that really cooked food. It was good. And so I was always nice to those groups of people, and it always served me well. Even when I was an administrator, I made sure that I was in good with those people. And and the bus drivers. Be nice to the bus drivers. That was the other. He didn't really talk about them, but when I became an administrator, I knew I needed the bus drivers on my side. And the other thing he taught me, I'll never forget, about 2 weeks into when I had taken over the classes. And this guy taught me how school really worked back then. I remember this was in the 80s when he about 2 weeks after I'd been working and teaching, I came up to him. I said, hey, this case of paper up here behind the desk is empty. I need to get some more paper. And he looked at me and he said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm out of paper. And he said, that paper is enough paper to last a whole year. How in the world are you out of paper? And I was like, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, when I do stuff in class, I print it and I give it to the kids, and the kids do the work, and then they put it in their notebook. And he's like, no. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, no, don't ever give them anything. Make them copy it. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, make them copy it. He goes, if you make a map, make it real dark where they can put their paper on top of it and trace it and copy it. And then you take the map back up, and then you give it to everybody in the next class. And then you keep it, and then next year you pull it back out and use it again. He's like, don't ever give them any paper. Don't give them anything. I'm like, really? He said, no. He goes, now if the office gives it to you and you didn't have to print it with your paper, then you can give it to them. And I was like, well, what about the test? He goes, man, make your test, give them the test, take the test up, make them put everything on their paper, and then use the test year after year. And I was like, really? He said, yeah. He said, don't do it. He goes, man, you're doing twice as much work as you need to do, and you're making them not do anything. And I was like, okay. So I proceeded for the next, I don't know, 17 years. Once I got hired as a teacher to do exactly what he said. I never gave the kids anything unless I went to a school where they said you have an unlimited amount of paper. But if they gave me a case of paper, man, it was like a contest between all the teachers to see who could use the least amount of paper. And I would win because I got trained by Coach Matthews. He showed me exactly how to do everything. And my kids would always be like, why can't we keep this? And I'm like, you can't keep anything. I'm not going to give you anything. You got to copy it. And they'd be like, why do we have to copy it? I'm not learning anything by copying it. I'm like, well, if you copy it, you read it, and then you write it down. So that's at least twice that you had to pay attention to it. Whereas if I just gave it to you, you'd never even read it. And they were like, really? I acted like there was some kind of teaching strategy to that. And there wasn't. I was just trying to conserve paper. Because back then, not only did we not get paid anything, but we didn't get anything. They didn't give us. When you got your teacher supplies, oh, this is pretty cool right here. When you got your teacher supplies at the beginning of the year, that's a part of a canal. Now that's the first one that showed any kind of life in the water. But when you got your teacher supplies at the beginning of the year, you got a little box that had some rubber bands, some paper clips, some permanent markers, about 2 or 3. Some pencils and erasers, not many. A few pens maybe. That's got some flowing water in it. You'd get a few pens. You'd get some index cards for some reason. You get some of those clips, those big paper clips, those big binder clips kind of things. You might get a few folders in there or something. You'd get like a box of folders because everybody used folders. And you'd get 1 pack of chalk when I started. And then later on we would get 1 pack of those dry erase markers and a dry erase eraser. And that'd be about it. That's what you got for the year. And good luck to you. Hope that lasts. The chalk lasted a long time. I gotta hand it to the chalkboard. The chalkboard people, everybody hated writing on chalkboard so bad. We can make a pack of chalk last 2 or 3 years. We did a lot of talking when we had the chalkboards. A lot less writing, a lot more talking. Yeah, when I was a kid, I thought the chalkboard was really cool, you know. The teacher would get up there and write all that, you know, and they, like in elementary school, all your teachers had really nice handwriting, because back then they would teach you how to write in cursive and all that kind of stuff. Okay guys, I made a rookie mistake. My phone, which is my camera, died while I was out there on the trail. I will say I will be coming back because it's a long trail. I didn't get to the end of it. I have no idea how long it is. There's 2 other parts I didn't even go on. So I probably should do a little more research and see what's the deal. See how long it is. There were some places that looked like you could fish. Looked like people who fished there. But I mean, you'd have to walk a pretty good ways for some of them to be able to get to it. And it just died. My phone just died right in the middle when I was talking about the chalk. I'll just put it this way when it comes to chalk. Writing with chalk on a chalkboard is like putting a mouthpiece in your mouth and trying to talk to somebody. It's horrible. Everybody I hated writing on the chalkboard. I really did. It was awful. And I mean, I had to do it for years. But when we got the whiteboards with the dry erase markers, that was the greatest thing that ever happened to me while I was teaching. It really was. That really was probably like the number one most impactful thing. I loved it. But anyway, enough of that. I don't know why I was talking about that anyway. And after my phone died, I was so just flabbergasted. I didn't know what to do. There were a few things I would have showed you pictures of video, but I'll be coming back here. It's really nice. It's right here, like I said, right here in the middle of town. They got a little park and a playground and a covered pavilion and all that kind of stuff for events. And it's shaded all the way. I didn't get into a lot of bugs, which I was surprised because I knew there was a lot of water. And I'm sure sometimes it's really, really bad with the bugs. But anyway, I know how to take care of that. I cover myself up and make sure I don't get ate up by the insects and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool back in here. So I'll be coming back. You guys can come with me. You're invited to come with me. Or you can just stay at home and not watch your videos on your phone. Just be by yourself. That's your choice. But I'm giving you the option of seeing things like this park. Thanks for watching, guys.